in the city as a team bartender in these high-end nightclubs. So that's what we did. We went down, and there was almost like a casting call for this new bar that was starting up called M Bar, which will play a significant part in my story. So we went down there and got jobs there. There's a bunch of funny things that happened. It was a brand new bar. She got interviewed in one room, I got interviewed in another. The guy that interviewed me turns out to be Terry, which turned into my best mate, and all these years later, me and Terry are still best mates. Working in that bar was unique. It was called M Bar. It was under the Sandman Hotel on Georgia Street in Vancouver. And that really taught me about, working in the city. Although the concept itself didn't work, it wasn't that great. It was a billionaire that opened it up, and Terry, while I was back in Australia just visiting my parents at the time, it was going that slow that he got these promoters in, which were called Ecstasy, and that was the name of the promotion group, and it was four best friends. And overnight that bar transformed. Now, in saying that, they're predominantly their crowd on a Friday night were all the Vancouver's underworld. They were all gangsters and would drink like absolute fish. And so that's how I guess I got started to know Vancouver's underworld and the gangs in Vancouver. Was I used to serve them on a Friday night. It was like almost like an organism within itself. The different groups and who people were. It started to sort of be a crazy world. It was an incredibly violent world. They'd have massive fights. And I used to just work down a Friday night, and normally before they came along, we'd make, $100 in a shift. After they started working on a Friday and Saturday night, we would make anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 in tips for one night. It was crazy times. A very good place to work money-wise. But I was working as a bartender. I was still doing my construction job. I was also flipping houses. I'd got one of those midnight courses in the middle of the night on TV, and it said learn to buy houses with no money down, and that's what I did. Is I listened to all 14 CDs, wrote it out, and traveled down to Seattle the next weekend during the day, and I hunted for about 2 weeks, and I ended up buying a house with no money down. I was going to fix it up over the summer just to add another thing to do to my already busy schedule and make some more money. And what I did is, my brother wasn't feeling the greatest at the time, so I got Dave over from Australia, and he went down to Seattle and helped me fix up the house. He was down there full time, so basically I was working in construction full time. I ended up starting to bartend Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I'd also head down to Seattle from Vancouver, across the border. I'd go down there on a Saturday morning, work all day, drive back to another country, work that night, get up, drive back down, and have to be back for Monday morning at work. So I was doing it all. And look, at the time, and married at the time. So with all of that going on, I started getting a little bit, me and my wife were getting very distant, and at that time we decided that our marriage wasn't going to work, and we ended it after we sold the house. Great. It turned out to be a really great exercise. Dave fixed it up all summer. It was so good looking back, spending time with him all summer. And I sold the house in 12 hours. A couple of mistakes that I made, and that's where listening to all the information on all the CDs cost me a few dollars, because I remember I missed CD 11, and that cost me $6,000, as it's pretty common in the US for sellers to pay the buyers closing costs. It's almost like in Australia paying the stamp duty. But anyway, I digress. So that's all going well. I'm going back to Australia, and I'm trying to do it all. My marriage is ending, and at the time I moved out of our place and moved into the city, and just started, working more and more and more. And over time, it was so much fun working at that bar. Met a lot of people. We had rap parties for Miramax and different people, different stars, and I got to know that crowd, those four guys, become a really integral part, or one especially. So I got to know that crowd, and over the next, I'd say, year and a half after working there, one of their brothers decided to buy a bar because they wanted to move that crowd, and they trusted me and a few other people. One of my best mates also, I got him a job there, which was Adam. Adam, one of the first guys I ever met in Vancouver. Adam would have been maybe 7 or 8 years younger than me. He worked at a gym, great guy, great looking guy, and just always just the nicest guy you'll ever meet. And I took Adam to the next job, bartending, and he also in the future will play a key role in my story. So they bought a bar, and it was called Aqua on Hastings Street. So Bar closed down because of all the fights and everything that happened. And this guy's brother, Chris, I don't give a shit about Chris. Chris threw me under the bus, so I can name and shame him. Chris bought this bar, and it was funded by two brothers, Mario and some other guy, and I can't remember his brother's name. They funded this bar. I worked there, Adam worked there, Terry worked there. And look, it went off. It was obviously, that crowd came along, that gangster crowd, and when you're working in that circle, you've all got to mesh and understand it's a different element. What I didn't used to like was my construction world coming into play with my night work, because the bar that I worked at had all these top-ranking gangsters of Vancouver. And if you ever watch any documentaries about the gang wars and everything like that, I was in Vancouver at the time that was all going on. So I was working in construction, bartending, fixing up the houses, and it was getting a lot. Traveling down to the US, my marriage had broken up, and I moved into the city. I was actually sharing an apartment with Mindy at the time, and then it was late one night, and you know this, late one night after a few drinks, we were sitting around, and I remember somebody saying, "It'd be great if somebody knew how to fly a helicopter, or somebody knew how to fly." The helicopter didn't come into play. I think a plane was. Stay tuned.